Those who sign an authorization to enroll in this would be in the plan for the entire duration of each contract period. You'd sign in as electing it, and then you'd sign out if you wanted to step out of the plan. In other words, go back to a 9-month. In order to make the plan work, and in order to have time to set up first your primary contract, your 9-month contract, we have to allow that process to work. Then we have to come behind it and change that 9-month contract according to your specifications. That means moving you out of the 9-month pay into the 12-month pay area. So we want to make sure you know that would require us to have everything done in hand and ready to hand off to go into the payroll system no later than June 30th of any given year. And why is that? Well, it gives us a certain amount of days to get that process in place before August 7th when your normal contract starts. And that's why that cycles. We may even have to nudge it back, but this is the end of the envelope. This is a framework so you know how this process is going to work and what's going on to make it happen and why you would have to do it early on. All right, so once you're in the program, in other words, you have been given a 9-month contract, you have elected this kind of an option. Once you're in it, it is irrevocable. It's basically because you have enacted a contract to be paid over a certain period of time, and we have already begun, as soon as that first check happens, we've already taken a portion of that pay and set it up to be paid to you at a future date. Those are your instructions. So basically, once you're in it for a year. If you come out, you need to come out before June 30th of the next year so that you don't continue in it if it's not your intent to do so. So that's where we would move on. So the changes, as it notes here, basically are in August of each year, coinciding with your contracts. And your contracts are basically the primary contract. The 9-month version is basically regulated by the context and the agreements all under the UFF collective bargaining agreement. So those things do not change. That's not going to, what we're talking about here does not change any of that. Basically, there's another little piece that we often don't see in the literal sense. Not a lot of faculty go behind and say, well, exactly how is all this working? They just look and say, am I getting paid? Great, that's wonderful, that's why I'm here. I want to be paid and I want to teach people and create wonderful leaders of tomorrow. Well, the machinations behind all this is going to be reflected in an interesting change because there'll be 2 steps to what will happen. Your current contract is set up at 19.5 pays. What does that mean? Well, that means there's 19 full biweekly pay periods. And then there's a couple days that kind of click on to the front end in order to get you to the August 7th date, and then on the other end to get you to the May 7th date on the other end. So that's the way the current payroll system is set up to pay you. And because of that, we are dividing the overall contract rate between that number of pay periods so we can determine how much goes into each paycheck. You're still getting the same pile of money. It's just how it's going to be divided. In order for the plan to work, we have to say, okay, first we put you in at the 19.5 and we establish the base. Then you say, okay, I'm going to look at the deferred pay. So the next step is, in order for deferred pay to work, we can't stick with this. We have to reset that number to 20 pays. This is all going to be basically behind the curtain to you. We just want to tell you what we're doing so you know what's happening at each step. So this would be the first step, is to convert it instead of 19.5 to 20. That'll have the appearance when you look at it that your pay is being reduced, but it isn't, because you're spreading it over 20 full pay periods now instead of 19 and a half. So your hourly rate will look different. It has nothing to do with anything in your contract. You're still getting all that money. It's still going to happen when it's supposed to. So that's going to be something that you'll notice right off. So it'll have the appearance of a slightly lower rate. But it's just moving the pennies around on the table. It's not really taking any pennies away or adding any to the process. Is everyone with me so far on that? Great. Any questions about just this piece? There's going to be a lot more that will fall behind it, so I want to make sure that we don't lose track. I know how this works for me. I get in the classroom and I look up or I look down, I forget, I skip a whole chunk of information, and then all the next 50 minutes of lecture are completely floating around without any anchor to hold me. So I want to make sure we're on. I'm going to let Mr. Pollard talk to you at this point, and he's going to talk to you a little bit about the bottom line, the granular level.
So our goal here, as Jeff's already stated, is we want to equalize your gross pay. Some people come into this thinking that the amount on their check is going to be the same every time, and it will not be. So we're going to go through a couple of examples, and then we're going to skip back to a spreadsheet that gives a little more detail, hopefully makes it easier to understand. So with our goal being to equalize your gross pay, what actually happens here is each paycheck, we take a little bit of your paycheck and hold it back. And that gets stored for you. And so August through May, you're getting a paycheck, and then May through the following August, you're getting that amount paid out to you. So just an example of a 9-month contract salary rate of $48,000. Currently, we would divide that amount by the 19.5 to get this $24,6154 amount. So if you weren't in this plan and you were making $48,000, that's what your gross pay would look like. So to calculate what it's going to look like if you are a participant in this plan, we would take that same $48,000 divided by 26 pay periods, and this is what you would get each pay period. And part of that calculation involves the changing of the current 19.5 pay periods to 20. So as you can see, the difference between the 2,400 and the 1846 is the amount we hold back from each check and store for you. And that builds up over time, and then when it's time to pay it out, that balances and reduced. Okay, we just want to show a quick change because we know there are salary changes periodically, probably not as often as we'd like. But this just gives you an example. If you have a pay change midway through the cycle, and this assumes that on 11/15 the date's not really super important, but it would become important depending on when it happens. So this is the same scenario we had on the previous screen, and you assume that after 7 pay periods that you got a raise to $48,960. So it goes through a similar calculation to try to figure out how do I recalculate the pay so that the gross pay going forward is going to be equalized. Obviously, you got a slight pay increase, so that amount is going to increase some. And so after the calculation is finished, you see your paycheck has now gone up to $1,879. It was $1,846 before. And for those of you who are really interested in the math, in your spare time when you're really interested in reading up on this gives you the calculation as far as how it goes through and calculates the actual new amount. One thing that you need to keep in mind is how many people are ORP participants. Okay. So this has a little more impact on you, but the rest of you obviously are either in the investment plan or the pension plan. So now that we all contribute to our retirement, this has an impact on everyone, unless you are a drop participant. But the state of Florida requires us to collect your retirement contributions as if you weren't in this deferred pay plan. So we would be collecting the 3% that everyone contributes, plus any voluntary ORP contributions that you may have, throughout the 9-month period from August to May. Okay, so what that does is causes your paycheck to fluctuate after that period. So that's why we say your net pay will not be equal, because during those months, May to August, you will not have any retirement contributions come out of your paycheck. Not our idea. This is a requirement from the state and the Division of Retirement. But we want you to be aware of it. Any questions on that? Okay. We're going to show you an example, and we came up with a spreadsheet, and we'd be more than happy to send it out to anyone who would like it. You can run your calculation for whatever your pay is, whatever your deductions are, and it will give you an idea of what your net paycheck may look like if you decided to participate. So, as you can see, we just made up an amount, and we have sections for you to input your voluntary ORP contribution, 3% contribution, your health insurance, pre-tax insurances. Those are things like dental, vision. You have cancer policies through the state. Those things are pre-tax. And if you have other retirement accounts, you may have a separate annuity through TIAA or MetLife or VALIC or somebody like that. You can input that amount. And then any miscellaneous deductions you may have, such as Nautilus card or foundation. And then your tax filing status. And if you're not sure where that is, you can look on the bottom of your pay stub. It's emailed to you every 2 weeks, and it tells you what your tax filing status is, whether you're single, married, and how many allowances that you claim. So, as you can see, what we've done is we have a current scenario that everybody's in right now, and of course we have this thing February through May that everybody loves called the double deduction period, and then a scenario for you if you were participating in the deferred pay plan from August through May, and then May through August. And the key thing here is you see if you're an ORP participant, you have retirement contributions currently, and you see if you were a deferred pay participant, they would change, but when you get over here to the May through August period, you have zero coming out. So if you look at the bottom, you got different numbers for all of these. The good thing is you don't have the double deduction for insurance if you're a participant in this plan, but you also don't have retirement contributions coming out during this time. Any questions on this?
So is ORP Social Security?
Is it?
Social Security is it?
Social Security, it's figured in right here.
Line 36.
Okay.
And I'll warn you, like I've warned the others, there are a bunch of tabs down here at the bottom. You don't even worry about them. It's how all this is figured up. So I chose not to hide them because last time I hid them, I didn't know they were hidden, and it took me forever to figure out how I did this. And so when I finally figured out that I'd hidden them, I said I'm not going to hide them again. And just a couple of caveats. Of course, this is an estimate. It should be close. If you happen to be a non-resident alien for tax purposes, don't use this just because the tax calculations are different. I don't know anybody who fits that category, but just in case, or if you were to share this with someone. But if you want this, I'd be happy to send it out to you so you could see what it would look like for you.
Yeah, this area up here is where he has allowed you to place your personal information. So it will recalculate the matrix below that he's constructed in the spreadsheet, so you can look at your personal situation.
And if you're unsure what you have, where it fits in this, we'd be happy to try to help you out. I tried to put some help in there. That way it would be pretty clear. But the biggest thing we want you to see is that the net pay is just not going to be the same. because of some of the requirements that we have, and because of the change in the way health insurance is calculated as part of that process. We have one other tab on here that just kind of shows you how it works, and you can also play with this as well. I just put in that amount. We can all dream big, right? And then it just shows you how the calculation happens each pay period. So this is the amount that you would earn, and then you have an amount that you actually would get paid. And this, what we call the deferred amount, is that bucket we were talking about, that it stores that amount each time you get paid, and then accumulates it until you get down here where you're no longer earning any, and now same amount is being paid to you, and just decreasing that year-to-date deferred amount. So for those of you who are visual and want to see what's happening, that may help you. And also there's a place up there if you wanted to, if you had a new annual salary, you could put that in, and then put in a pay period that amount was effective on, and it then recalculates from that pay period changed forward, where you can see before it was $4,000 and it changed to $4,250, and how from this point forward your pay is equalized, but it is different if you looked at the previous pay period with the old salary rate in it. Any questions about that? Okay.
All right.
I'll give it back to Jeffrey.
Well, as we saw on the, forgot, making gross assumptions here. All right. The issue of double deductions goes away, but there are some very important and significant consequences. As 9-month faculty, you are the only population in the state of Florida that has a assured coverage opportunity. In other words, you work for 9 months. We are allowed to take those insurance premiums during those 9 months and pay to cover you through the end of September. When you get in this plan, that is gone. You are not assured of coverage through September. There are a lot of reasons why you would want to be looking back and forth over it, but for your purposes, what will happen is you will become you will look as if you are a 12-month employee going forward, and you will pay premiums even from those pays that you get in the summer. Unlike how you will be treated for retirement, for purposes of insurance, the insurance will go forward as if you're a 12-month person. That's sort of a good thing. The same kind of thing will happen with, that was with the pre-tax. The post-tax benefits also will take on that same character. Some of them may be slightly altered, and that would be the long-term disability, because it's covering for periods that you're working. You're not disabled during months when you're not working, so they're still going to go back and look at you slightly differently. So how that will work, we haven't actually seen all of it work, so it's something that we'll have to gain experience with as we go. But the deductions are basically spread over the full period. And for you folks, you mostly do get a chance during your 9-month period to notice that there's a couple months where there's 3 checks. We only take it out of the first 2. The 3rd check is not a deduction check. So that'll happen to you normally at least twice a year. And I think every 7 to 11 years it'll happen 3 times. So, but but it does happen. So just be aware, 24 checks will be touched in a year in order to cover your insurances. Does everybody see what I'm talking about here? I'm trying to remember. Okay. When you separate from employment, that's when things are going to get interesting. When you separate, the first piece of information you need to know is if you're in this plan and there's an unexpected separation from employment, then whatever's in the plan simply gets handed over and taxed at the current rate. So whatever that rate looks like, that's what you're going to be taxed at. So that is not in itself spooky. But the other pieces that go down from beyond that, the opportunities for matching your insurance, as I said, those are gone. So for instance, if you come up at the end of May and say, I'm gone, I'm going somewhere else, the relationship is over with, what will happen is whatever we've paid in May will cover you through June, and everything else beyond that stops. You are not going to get employer matching for coverage going beyond, but it always extends to the month after you leave. So if you leave in the month of April, you can have coverage through the end of May, and then it's over. You will be offered COBRA coverage, but that's very expensive, and it happens outside. It's a separate issue. Just to give you an idea, I'm going to walk over here and give you a couple of thoughts. So some of you may be currently covering as individuals, and you're going to pay approximately $50 per month for your coverage. The rest of you probably in the family option, and you're paying per month. Now this is normally 2 checks. Okay. So on the other side of this, the overall cost for the insurance, so you know, is not this. It is, and up here it runs about, these become pretty close to the monthly cost for those months after. So in other words, you have covered yourself, you stopped working in May, and we matched for you. In the month of May, we've matched your payments for June. So when you're covering for July, August, September, or between the time you stop with us and start with someone else, this is the starting point for COBRA coverage to go beyond. So it becomes a huge impact and a very significant change in basically how the package looks for you. So as a 9-month faculty now, none of this really would matter unless you went into the plan. Then it becomes very relevant. Because of this, there are certain things that this plan will not normally allow you to do. And I'm going to tell you how that will happen. I can't remember if I put it on the next slide. I think I did. Whew. Am I? Okay, yes. Great. One of the key items for those of you that are currently in pension plan, the option to go into the deferred pay, the deferred retirement option. And in that plan, basically, it says you have an established termination date. Normally, those dates don't line up with how the pay would go under deferred pay compensation. But because the rule of the state says you don't get any pay after you end your drop, that means in the year that you're going to finish drop, you must opt out June before that. So if you're going to finish your drop participation, say in 2017, in June of 16, you have to opt out and go back into the 9-month cycle so that we can pay you normally and then you can retire normally. Any payment beyond your normal drop end date voids your drop. They take all the money back and they put you back as a regular retiree, and all the money that's in that drop account is gone forever. We don't want that to happen. So that would be one of those events that would preclude you from continuing participation in this kind of a plan. Other kinds of things that would affect it, a regular retirement or a planned retirement in that next year. Same kind of situation would arrive. people normally say, I want to retire June 30th, for instance. Well, if you chose to say retire later, you can certainly do such things. You can move your retirement date around, but remember, the thing that's important to you is, when do I start getting the retirement check? Because if you're going to get it and you're going to actually truly retire, then that's when we must stop the pay. Just so you know, that's how it's going to happen. In years where you're in sabbaticals, this also can have an effect. Individuals who are in partial sabbaticals, it complicates matters to no end. So if you're going into those, normally during that cycle, you're going to opt out the year before that happens. Normally those letters happen in the spring, don't they? Normally the provost would send a sabbatical letter out somewhere between February and April 30th, somewhere in there, so you know what your fall is going to look like. So you'll know normally in enough time to go ahead and do the option, so you can pull out in time. When you know you're going to go into an unpaid leave status, this is another place where you would not want that. There are some individuals, for most of the rest of us, it never makes perfect sense, but for faculty members, they kind of have these neat ideas, and they do things like, I'm going to basically go on a leave of absence without pay, I'm going to go be a Rhodes Scholar, I'm going to do something wonderful over in Europe, or be creative and get a Nobel Prize or whatever. When that's coming, when that's on the horizon, that's another time to back out of this program with ample time ahead of it, so that you do not go into this plan and end up having some kind of a situation that would affect you adversely. Another issue that we have noted are certain grant-funded positions. Not a lot of faculty have their primary positions grant-funded, but some do. They have like a split. And because of that, the grant sometimes drives the movement of the money and when it can be expended. They want a closed account by a certain date, they want certain things to be in place, and they want proof of what's happened. They want records. Not all grants are that tight, but there are some. And because of that, those grants may drive your ability to use the program as well for a given year. So if you know you're going to be half grant funded and you know your grant has a limitation, says all the money has to be expended, all the accounting has to be approved and provided by March 31st, probably not a good idea to be in this plan, because it may complicate your ability to close that grant properly. So we would just add that to it. It is a concern. We don't know for sure if it's going to be a showstopper or not, but it is something that you definitely need to look at your grant very carefully to be sure that a deferred pay option does not interfere with the requirements of the grant. Each paycheck, starting with your first one, we're taking $500 and blah, blah, blah from that example. You'd be taking that $500, $553, putting it in a little holding place, and you keep doing that, but we're not adding interest to it. So the money is basically, it's monopoly money until it actually hits your hand, then you do what you want with it. Another area that kind of can be affected, and it depends on the circumstances, and that's going to be workers' compensation calculations. What are they using to calculate? You heard us talk about 3 different rates, right? The 19.5, the 20, and the 26. What are they going to use? When are they going to pay it to you? The payments for a 9-month position may look different, so it's going to affect how that will look too. Doesn't mean that's going to stop you from being in the plan. It just means that if something happens, God forbid, hopefully none of you will ever have to deal with it, but if you do, it would affect how that particular benefit gets applied for you. All right. We've kind of discussed this piece. The employer contributions over the period are going to be in that 9-month window, so they don't change for those purposes. They're going to be paid basically, I believe, on the 20 pay package, right? That's the way we will do it. We won't pay them on the 19.5. We're going to do that. That was why we mentioned that intermediate step, so it doesn't just go 19.5 to 26. So when this happens, it's based on your pay in 20 pays. So all of it looks a little different. So there's little pieces in here. I want to make sure we're following. Unemployment calculations, hopefully nobody in this room will ever have to talk about that. But unemployment calculations, how they do that, how they pay them, when they pay them, all that can be affected by this change. A lot of this is outside the realm of what I would call your personal immediate concerns, but once you become a chair or a department person that's in charge of a particular project or something, or a certain area of the campus, suddenly you start to have this as a concern. What are your encumbrances, your expenditures, and the disbursements? All of that. Reports look different, and some of them, because of the way they're written, may reflect different things because of how this money is basically set up. And just something to be aware of. If you're not in any of those positions, you probably go, well, whatever. So much. The chairperson gets that headache because they elected to be a chair, right? All right. Any questions? Go for it.
Concerning the end of your health benefits, if you say, I'm not going to renew my contract in the fall, but I will teach in the summer, sort of not under contract, but you're still an employee, does health cover you for that summer?
Under what circumstances? Let's define the person.
If you said, if you're...
Right now, you are covered that way under your current contract.
And so if I there wouldn't change for this?
If you change your relationship with the university, when you're separating is when you're actually not on a payroll anymore.
Okay. So
if you have a summer contract, we're going to talk a little bit more about that in just a moment, but we'll address it. But I'll say this at the moment. Summer contracts and this plan normally do not conflict or relate to one another. We look at them totally separately. If you're in the deferred pay option, that deferred pay option goes on and we ignore any activity in the summer. It's the same thing as what we do for you now. We ignore that in regards to your main contract. You have overloads. We ignore those in regards to your contract. They're paid because you're basically saying, today I am Athena A, tomorrow I am Athena B, and then I'm Athena C as we go down through these various summer machinations and the different periods that happen. All this kind of stuff. And if you got an overload, there you go. It's another piece. But these are not related. This is only going to touch that main contract. When it comes down to determining when you're actually separating, because of retirement rules, as long as you're on payroll, you're still here. You have not retired. So you can't retire and then do a summer contract. That's not permitted because you void your retirement. Not so good. Not a good idea. So because of the way retirement is set up, you probably wouldn't even tell us you were going to retire until you were finished with that last day of that summer appointment. Then you say, I'm retiring. Then at that point you can. And it may or may not affect you at all because it ends up stopping in August. I'll say 60% of the time. I don't know, all those summer terms, I think there's like 6 of them. They're all over the place. So each one of them has a slightly different effect, but hopefully that helps on that issue.
So is your question, let's say I decide at the end of the spring term, I'm not coming back in the fall, but I'm going to teach in the summer?
Right. I'm not retiring, but I won't be coming back.
So you would work that summer contract, and we pay that over 6.5 pay periods, whether you're working term A, B, C, or D, and you have an end date of August the 6th or the 7th or whatever that works out to be. So at that point you're saying that I would be leaving the university at the end of the summer period? I think that's what she's asking.
I'm more or less saying, could a faculty member avoid that health benefit gap by working the summer, even though they're not coming back?
So they would work up until August the 6th, let's just say that's when it ended, and then would not come back when the new contract started on August the 8th.
Right.
So they'd work in August.
Well, it would affect you. You don't avoid it. You just get a smaller piece of it. because if you're leaving and you've told us you're not renewing, then back in before June, you said, don't put me on the extended contract. And we would have started you on the new contract effective August 7th, right?
August the 8th.
8th, there you go. And then we would have started some deductions after that. But there are no deductions after that. You've stopped. So you're going to miss a portion. You'll be eligible for some coverage, but you may have to do some things to make it happen. If you're actually physically charged with being present any days in August, we can grab up some money and send it on. And it could resolve the issue. Not guaranteed, but again, as I said, each one of those periods, different. In before August, oops, we're going to pay one. We got one pay. We'd have to create a double deduction because we wouldn't do that pay after that because you're not in it anymore. You're not in the contract, so you're out of it. So it's where those dates are beginning and ending that are important, and what we're going to do. But you could pretty much fudge pretty darn close if you planned it well. You could, but that's very important to write it out. You could actually write out the whole thing and say, yeah, I'm going to opt out of the plan. I'm going to allow this one to finish. But if you're retiring, it's different. And if you don't retire, you're basically saying, okay, I'm going to go on this amount of money. I'm opting out of the plan, so I'm not going to get all these checks are going to kind of all look all different after this certain date. So you're basically opting out for the next year. So it could work to your advantage. So, but it depends. If you're in like drop, you don't have any choice. If you're in ORP, actually ORP is far uglier. I'm not going to go into that. There's a workshop I do on ORP to sort of help people understand what the state has done to you over the years in creating a scenario where they sort of set when you are eligible for certain kinds of disbursements from your money. I'll just give you a real quick, this is like a 3-minute version. I'm in ORP, I say I want to leave, I want to start getting my money as soon as possible. I'm finished May 7th. Okay, I say I want to retire. Well, when do you retire? When are you eligible to start taking the money? Because when you get the money is when you're actually retired, not when you say you are. You're just saying, I'm retired. Okay, well that starts a clock. When's the clock start? If I say May 7th, I'm retiring, then the clock starts June 1st. And if you're not 62 and you don't have at least the commensurate number of years for when you entered the plan, it could be anywhere from 6 to 10 now. The way the state has wrote the policy, there's multiple number of years that you could be. As long as you have 10 years of service, you have to be 62. If you're not 62, then you have to wait longer. How much longer? Well, it starts June 1st, wait all of June, wait all of July, wait all of August. September 1, you get your first check. If you're over 62, then, and you go out in May, you wait all of June. July 1, you can get a 10% distribution, and then your next distribution starts in September. So that's the thumbnail sketch. It's far scarier than that, but I just want you to know that how that all works is spooky because it also determines when you would be eligible, if you chose to do so, to come back as an adjunct or to return in some other capacity that's paid by the university system or by any other state agency in Florida. All of that. But that's all backwoods stuff, but it's another wrinkle. It's just another wrinkle in the process. But if you ever come to that, we will have talks. We'll have several talks. We're not going to just cut you loose and not throw you out there. We'll make sure we converse with you, and we'll also put you in touch with Mr. Bob Henning in the state, and we'll all talk several times before anybody makes any big decisions. But that's why I say when your plan is to leave, probably in your best interest to pull out of that program a year ahead of time and basically just let the 9-month thing happen, get yourself covered through September, do the double deductions, and not go through the headache. Trying to balance everything on the head of a pin right up to the date, it's very complicated. So I hope that wasn't too much. All right. I think I've hit all this, right? Mm-hmm. Very good. Okay. When we talk about this from the beginning, we're talking about a deferred pay option. But there are other options that are currently in place. Actually, some of your fellow faculty members are already doing this. These are things that we can set up some training programs to help people get into them and to see how they would work. Ultimately, it's going to be your design, how you do it. But some of the examples would be, have you ever heard of a Christmas club? Have all of you heard of a Christmas club? Christmas clubs, you're contributing all year long. You're putting money in and you're saying, Mr. Banker, take this money, put it in this account, and starting sometime in the middle of November, I'm going to start taking it out buying Christmas presents. And, oh, by the way, since I'm putting the money in this secured account and I'm not going to be able to take money out and just go spend it on stuff during the summer, I would like you to give me a preferred interest rate. Sometimes it's a little bit more here or there that they'll be willing to offer, since you're putting it into a committed account, you're setting aside, and it's not going to be as liquid as a savings or a checking account. You're saying set it aside. Because of that, usually there's a little bit better offering for the various levels of interest they may offer. Now, this is most common. I think originally, this came up at, I thought it was credit unions, but I may be mistaken. But I know banks and credit unions have done these things, and there are several people who are already doing this with some of the banks around. We have the Florida State Employees Federal Credit Union. That's one of the places I know they were trying it. And I don't know for certain if our Coastal Bank off campus is doing it, but I believe we can work with them and set up a program, have them come in and do some workshops and talk about this. If, after all of the discussions, you like that idea better. One of the big issues is, remember, no interest in this plan. But if you do this, you have control and you have interest, and it belongs in your hand. Anything happens, if there's a surrender value, it's probably the only thing that you would notice as a nuisance in there is probably loss of a certain amount of interest. Not really anything that would affect you adversely. So, pretty good idea. The one other thing, there are a couple other things actually. One of the other things that you can do is set up multiple direct deposits. I think Billy can tell you several years back, I think you started that a couple of years ago.
Yeah, it's been in place for about 4 or 5 years now. You could have multiple direct deposits currently from your paycheck if you chose to send one to a credit union or to your bank or your savings account. So you can choose to do that for up to 3 accounts currently. And all you have to do is fill out a new direct deposit form and submit it to the payroll office, and they put it in place.
That's another way to actually, it's a little more complex. You're just adding another wrinkle in here, but you can set up with a separate bank. Sort of takes it off the table. In other words, you're saying, okay, I do all my banking down here at Coastal Bank, but I'm going to go over here to Penn Air, I'm going to go over here to Florida State Employees Federal Credit Union, I'm going to put money in there in one of these accounts, I'm going to set aside, and that's not going to be part of my routine. It's not my checking account. I won't use a debit card against it. It'll just be in there. It's just another technique you can use as part of a greater scheme to get around and use some other financial options. We do have some folks associated with Ernst & Young that are available, and they come out and do workshops specifically for this. Ernst & Young, pretty good group. They're paid by the employers of the state of Florida. They don't have any products, don't sell any goods, don't have any preferences. The only reason they exist as far as providers and consultants to us are to make us happy. So the more happy people they have, the longer they get to keep their contract. So their whole objective is to assist employees to get at a financial model that helps them in their planning as they go forward. And they can do that currently as well, budgeting even. They'll go down and do a budget workshop just to help you do your annual, your monthly budgets for your own self. They'll show you how to do a construct for that, give you models, and they'll even help you. Phone calls, they're free of charge. So they don't cost anything. We can bring them in, we can connect them, we'll put together. One of our concepts was to bring in one of these consultants, bring him in, let him do, he or she, whoever it may be, come in and do basically a construct for budget, and then have the banker and the credit union come in and show you what their construct and what their offering would look like if you went that sort of Christmas club route where you actually are setting aside money and putting it into a preferred account and holding it for a better interest rate for yourself. Just something to think about. So it basically, the intent is to release a little bit more control. As I was saying before, the other is it's an irrevocable contract for the term of the contract, and each contract is a year. So with this, you will have a few more options to consider, and that's what we want to make sure that you're aware of. So hopefully we've covered it well there. Now in the handout I gave to you, this a lot of these are, we'll call them frequently asked questions, but I'll just say these are questions that struck home, and they sort of had some resonance with what was going on and what people were really concerned about. So we've kind of incorporated those into the document. You can kind of read through those at your leisure. Some of this we have covered, but these are just little bulleted answers, kind of help you keep the concepts down and in order. I think we had one or two of these that we were looking at that were especially interesting. I can't remember which one we did. Is this? Yeah, it was the summer contract, which we actually already touched on because you did ask that one. So we usually just ping off this so people can remember that your summer contract goes on just like normal. It doesn't affect your deferred pay. In other words, what will happen during the course of your normal contract plus your summer, you say, okay, I went in deferred pay option. I'm getting my 26 pays, and oh, by the way, now I'm stepping in and I'm person B and I'm doing my summer contract. So you continue to get your deferred pay, and then you'll also get your summer pay for each of those bi-weeklies as you go forward. So not much different than what is generally happening in the course of things now. But remember, during the summer, although the deferred pay is not going to have any charges against it for retirement, your summer appointment will. Your summer appointment is current pay. The reason that we don't stretch out the retirement contributions is they're made when the money is earned. It's not when it's paid, so it's a little different. It happens the same way with taxes. So if you think in regard to taxes, you're going to be taxed when you're getting paid. So as you're getting those checks that are spread out over a longer distance, there's less tax because there's less income on those periods. So basically your summer one will be taxed, and it will also have the retirement on it, but the other deferred does not. All right, I did load these in. You can, of course, give me a call if you want, or you can give Billy a call about any questions you might have. There are some other issues. I'm just going to put these out just so you know. These are things that will be in the background. The dean, the chair, these are their concerns more likely. Budgeting, how they're going to handle their budgets, what those are going to look like. Is it an issue for you? Probably not. Retirement contributions, they're going to be expensed over this period. That's important because they have to know that although the pay is moving differently, all of their contributions from the side of the budget are going to be paid in the 9 months. That's what's important to get that distinction. I think this is basically just saying the same thing, so I may have repeated myself. One of the other issues that does happen is that there has to be a revision of how we place you into the payroll system as a consequence. Because originally you're going to be set up as if you're contracted for 9 months. No one can make an assumption ahead of time that that's the way it's going to be. They're basically doing this and setting this up starting right now for fall. All that is already started. Of course, not everybody's going to be included in it, but those who are on these, who have been contracted and are on basically continuous employment, are basically already in the system. So they're just working your numbers now. So in the course of doing this, it would create a new action sheet that basically describes what your new intentions are under this new format. It's a long spreadsheet. It has all your 9-month information set up and budgeted for every pay period all the way out. You never have to look at it. Just thank God you don't want to look at it. It's a very confusing piece of work, and it's wonderful that there are brains up there under Shelley Blake and the Provost's office that can make these things work and can come out. But this will be an added wrinkle and an added function to what they're going to do. They'll do that one, then they'll have to create this secondary level, and they'll have to produce a document so that we can put it in that way and run it. These are just some divisional issues. Looking at your funding sources for grants and how those things will be matched up over the course of the payouts for you. I think that's the end of our run. So what I'd like to ask you now is if you have any questions from what we have just described to you. I think we've tried to put 10 pounds in 5-pound bags. So
Can you put that spreadsheet up again that you had?
Sure.
I have a couple of questions about that. You're going to send that out to us?
If you'd like it, I'll be more than happy to, yes.
yeah, there is a ballot form that you have. Every person, please give us that ballot form. On there, you will say, and we need to know, you specifically, if this is offered, do you want this? If you're going to be considering other options, but it's interesting, that's fine. But we need to know that, and if you wish to have a copy of this piece or a larger version of what we handed you, just put that on the sheet and we will know what to do next.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I start this fall as a 9-month. So in the current scenario with the 9-month employees who have health insurance, they are covered in the summer?
That's correct.
Okay.
Through September 30th.
Okay. So you take it out in advance.
Right.
We're doing that right now.
Now, the way this works, you'll take it out in the 26 increment.
Yes.
Actually in 24, but over.
24.
Right.
Okay. And ORP is optional retirement?
That is
that's
correct.
An additional retirement fund.
No, that is a choice. When you come as an employee, you choose pension, optional retirement, or investment.
Okay.
That's one of the kinds of retirement, but you have to pick
Okay.
one. If you're in the ORP, you have certain kinds of voluntary contributions and mandatory contributions that will be made. Those are specifically affected. Every plan requires 3%, so everyone is going to be affected by that retirement. That 3% comes out during the period based on what you would have been paid. You are actually paid. Does that help?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so essentially in August, if you were a 12-month employee, you'd be paying premiums in August for September coverage.
Okay.
But now, because you're 9-month, you're paying it in February and March and April, and I think that's the end, for that period that you're not here,
Yeah.
and it's not being deducted even if you're employed during the summer.
Okay.
And that's where that special provision comes in. It's only for people who are in 9-month contracts and who are being paid in 9-month contracts. They're the only ones eligible for that assured coverage through September.
And one thing I want to make sure that everybody's clear on is if you elect to, I mean, if this plan is offered and you elect to participate, it in no way changes the fact that you're still a 9-month, faculty member who's covered by UFF and the collective bargaining agreement. We've heard that rumor that some people think if I opt into this, I'm now a 12-month faculty, and you're not. You're just a 9-month faculty member being paid over 12 months. So none of that changes.
So I'm sure this is not, you've thought through this already, but isn't there now some stipulation that we can't earn more than 100% of our salary in the summer, that this does not affect that?
No. No. Any other questions?
Very good. We appreciate you coming out. Now we have a few more informed people to send out into the population.
So we have one more session, and we've not had a lot of participation. So if you know people that you've heard were interested in this, I do encourage them, if you can, to come, because we'd like to get the word out as much as possible.
Yeah, the next one's Wednesday, April 8th, 9:30.
Now, the form to have your direct deposit go to 2 different places or accounts, is that available on one UWF?
It is, and if you want to, when we leave here, I can take you across the hall and get you a form,
Yeah,
and then you can fill it out at your leisure and
that's fantastic.
return it to us.
So you'll send the spreadsheet based on
Yes,
this? Okay, thank you.
sure. And if you have any questions when you're filling it out, just give me a holler, and I'll be happy to try to walk you through it.
If you accidentally change his tax table, just ask for a fresh version. Those other ones, we were talking about those other tabs on the bottom. If you accidentally go in there and change one, just ask for a refreshed version, because all those tables drive the calculation.
I guess all I'm trying to anticipate, I know some government programs look at when you earn your pay and then when you received your pay. So if we were ever called upon to do that, y'all would have that available,
Yes.
and we could come up with that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Are you talking about as far as grants and that kind of thing? Or are you talking about like applying for a loan or?
Yeah, that
Okay.
kind of thing.
Yeah. That's why it would be important that you have that original 9-month
Mhm.
contract that shows here's what my pay is.
Right.
You start trying to show a paycheck that shows something based on 26 pay periods versus, I mean, it still equals the same amount. It's just when you receive it. So that could be a little confusing to some people depending on what document they ask for or what document you present to them. If you're applying for a loan or mortgage or something like that.
Yeah, if you're basically claiming you have a X number of dollars, say $50,000 contract with the university to teach 9 months, and you come at them and you're showing them one of these stubs from your current 26 pays, numbers won't add up.
No.
So that's where you are. That's what you're
Yeah.
asking, right? Okay, very
Yeah.
good.
I know UWF is not going anywhere, but if you have your money in a bank, it's an FDIC, so it's insured to a certain level.
Right.
So this money that y'all are holding is in an FDIC somewhere, I'm assuming.
Oh yeah.
Okay. So it would be insured.
Yeah, we're not going to take your money and run away with it. So.
Where would we hide? Well, again, I thank you very much for coming out, and
Thank you
we're
for
glad to have a
coming.
few more informed souls to send out into the population. Thank you very much, and have a good day.